David, you can start the meeting.
To call to order our Kent County Ag Land Preservation meeting for April 28th, 2025 at 6:01 p.m. For minutes, I saw we had minutes. Do we have approval on the minutes from the last meeting?
Motion to approve minutes.
I'll second it.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I guess the business in front of us, Carla, is approval of a walking path to access Jonathan Reed and his sisters Robin for land preservation for the piece back behind the railroad track.
That is correct. So MALF requires that there be sort of legal access to get to all parts of the farm, or they won't pay for that acreage. It's a more recent policy. So because the Reeds can't establish that they have the legal right to cross those railroad tracks, and it's virtually impossible to get that approval now, the option is to kind of have access through somebody else's land so that MALF can do their inspections. You can see that the Reeds have worked with the Clarks, and the Clarks are willing to let them use the existing farm lane, and then it kind of probably runs along a fence line, pasture, field line, back to where the woods are. And the MALF Board of Trustees requires that the local board provide a recommendation on whether or not they think that this is an acceptable way to get access to this small area. So
any discussion about it?
So even though those railroad tracks are not in service anymore and have been rail banked with the state, they can't get access, or okay.
it is, and David can attest to this, it's virtually impossible to get the Maryland Department of Transportation, the Railroad Administration, to grant somebody to have the right-of-way to cross those tracks. They want an outrageous amount of liability insurance, and then there's a fee that has to be paid annually that escalates over time. So while you as the property owner may feel you can go back and forth across those tracks, and I'm sure all of the farmers that have land across the railroad tracks do, it's not necessarily something that is legally documented, and MALF needs that for their easement purposes. This should not have any kind of detrimental effect on the Clark property. The kind of more amusing thing is that the Clark farm has a triangle of land that is separated from the main part of their farm that backs up against the Reed farm. And this was not an issue back in the 1980s when the Clark farm went under easement. So,
I was going to ask you about that. I saw that. Like I said, I understand change of personnel and everything.
yeah. And at this point, MALF has not given any indication that they are going to require the Reeds grant a right of access to the little Clark piece. But I think, if that does somehow come up again, the Reeds would probably grant it, and again, it wouldn't have any effect on the rest of the farm. It's maybe it's minimally a once in 10-year inspection. And that is the only right of access that is being granted.
This is the first one you know of, Carl?
This is the first one I've done, yes.
For the sake of discussion, would MALF, can you exclude that from the parcel, or is MALF is all or nothing?
No. So, no, MALF said you can put the farm under easement, but we're not going to pay you for that 4 acres if we can't get access to it. So the Reeds felt that it was important enough to put all of the acreage and be paid for all of it, to work out a way to get access to it. And we have had another farm in the county that there was a part of a field that was cut off by some railroad tracks, and those owners didn't want to do anything and just said, all right, yep, we put it all under easement, we won't take payment for it. So,
Funny part is the Clark Farm's already in land preservation, so they could get to it anyway.
yeah, kind of.
I mean, yes. Okay. Yeah. I guess we need a motion to approve this.
I make a motion that we approve this granted access through the Clark Farm to the Reed property of the 4 acres separated by the railroad tracks.
Have a second?
I'll second it, yeah.
Okay, that was Brad who made the motion, Tyler who seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay. That is all of the official business that we needed to conduct tonight.
Do we have any new business we need to discuss? Or?
I am not aware of any new business or anything that is looking to come forward to this board anytime soon. The MALF is not accepting easement applications this summer. Remember, last year they made that decision to go to a 2-year cycle, so we won't need to come do any kind of meeting for looking at rankings. The General Assembly in the state budget did include a little bit of funding for MALF for FY26. So, not a lot, but I think in total, between the 2 years, I think they expect to have about 33 million, 31 million.
That's what I thought. If they budgeted for this year, Carla, and we're not doing the cycle, doesn't that just move forward into next year?
No, last year they made the decision that they would take the FY25 money and combine it with the FY26 money and make offers in FY26.
Okay. But you expect it to be somewhere around 33,
Yes,
maybe?
yes.
We gotta get there first.
Right, yeah. I get robbed in 26.
The county had about $18,000 in our retained agricultural transfer tax to put forward for the matching funds component. We just don't have a lot of land that gets converted from agricultural use to some other use, so we don't collect a lot of that tax.
It's a good thing, one way.
Yes, it is.
It is a good thing, one way.
We have been, when we've been reviewing these community solar projects, though, we have been, the commissioners in sort of their response letter to those companies have been asking for a donation to put towards ag preservation. The way we've been calculating that value is to use MALF's formula for calculating agricultural value. So we look at the area coming out of production, we look at the soils, we put it in MALF's formula, and we say, please make a donation of this amount. And so far, I think the couple of companies we've put that forward to have said, okay, yeah, we can do that. So we'll see if we ever get any of those funds, but we thought it was a good way to try to make sure we had a little bit of money. Might be a way to generate more than we normally get, so. And since
Do you think the state will ever wake up and decide they're going to tax that ground different?
I have no idea.
I mean, I know that's been suggested, floated, but to me, it's no longer ag ground, it's commercial property.
So it still taxes ag land now?
I cannot answer that. I
Okay.
do not know. Yeah.
I mean, I know that's been brought to their attention, I
Yeah.
say. Who really makes that decision? Because the answer you were given, that sounds like we're kicking that ball around so we don't get that amount of Molly.
I mean, I know the equipment is taxed differently. It does get sort of a commercial tax rate for the improvements they make. I just don't know what they do about the land value. We don't have enough of them at this point.
Right.
And,
Doesn't the zoning have to change as well for it to be taxed?
no.
Okay.
So the taxing is on the use. And we do
I know they're
have,
pushing hard.
we have farms that are zoned village, which is one of our development districts, that still, because the use is agriculture.
Agriculture, you pay ag.
I
Yeah.
remember seeing that.
Yeah, I was going to
It's just
say,
like-
you know that.
It's just like our heavy industrial ground at home is still taxed as ag ground, even though it's zoned heavy industrial.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
We,
it's more that you're using it for ag. It's the point that once solar panels go on. That's the question, or we just haven't got enough that anybody's
Thought that far
pushing
ahead.
that subject.
yeah, and I think it might depend on how the solar companies use it. You know, the Morgnex Solar, who plan to graze sheep, we'll see.
We'll see on a Friday night who opens that gate.
And apparently, they're all going to have electronic collars on.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, there will be somebody monitoring the sheep, and will be able to know if if something happens, has it not moved? Has it left the property? So,
Well, you're just giving us ideas, cut the collars off before we open the gate.
so, yep, that's kind of what I have. I think just other county news, the land use ordinance, comprehensive rewrite of the land use ordinance that has been in progress for 5 years now. We are planning to submit the final set of text amendments that were required by the Critical Area Commission to be introduced next week, and hopefully by July, the new zoning map and the new land use ordinance will become effective.
We have a new book.
Yes, yep, it's all been
Did
completely
we
reorganized.
finally get the book? That's kind of what I'm waiting for, was the new book.
Rob and I haven't been really talking to too many people about new districts. I think there could be some coming in by the end of the year. So I think, we'll just reach out the next time we need to have a meeting. And I really appreciate that you all came in. Any questions for me?
No.
Okay.
I had one about this, this example that Clark Reed on, obviously this is null and void because both of them are, within mouth, it has access to it. But in the future, for the benefit of this board, I guess, if this came up again, it said that the agreement, they had a signed agreement. In the future, if the other, just for example, if the Clark Farm was not in mouth, would it have to be a recorded right-of-way for this to happen on the county level?
No.
Okay.
No. You can do this kind of a private access.
I was just curious
as
what
a-
happened if the adjacent farm, if gets sold after
It
this.
changes hands.
It would still carry forward. It will be memorialized somehow in the land records. There will be something that's recorded to this effect, to what's happening.
Future thinking, if, for example, the opposite, the adjacent farm gets sold, would that create an instance where you couldn't get a clear title to the farm in question,
The Clark Farm or the Reed Farm?
to the Reed Farm, if it ended up getting sold? Because the mouth easement wouldn't, you couldn't transfer the mouth easement because there was no,
No access to that
to it.
4 acres?
No, you can. So,
I just was curious if that became a problem for a title search in the
no,
future.
no.
Okay.
Anything else?
All right.
Anything
so.
from you, David?
Other than need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.